Kia ora, and welcome to the Beer Jerk Beer of the Week Drink Along, where every week we discover a new and interesting beer and we find out about the people behind it. This week we're drinking a beer from Mount in Mount Maunganui and Wiper and True in Bristol. It's a collaboration beer. Bit of a heady pour there, but it's looking pretty beautiful in the glass. As I say, Beer Jerk is a subscription club where you pay $8 per beer and you get to drink pretty interesting beers like this. So a lot of the beers that we have in our boxes, you can't really find them anywhere else. You probably haven't seen this beer around because we bought most of the batch of it. When we were chatting to the guys at Mount, and they told us when they were planning to make this beer, it had previously been brewed in Bristol, and it just sounded like something we had to get our hands on and had to share it with you wonderful people. So I'm pretty glad we managed to snag it. If you've got any friends that are not signed up to the Beer Jerk Beer of the Week subscription, get them involved. You may think that there's thousands and thousands of people all over the country that are drinking along with us every Thursday night, but there are a surprisingly small amount. And we'd love to see a few more. We have not increased our price in almost 9 years since we kicked off. So I reckon it's a pretty fantastic deal, and you get to support brilliant independent brewers, a pretty good independent retailer, me, and it's a little treat for yourself every Thursday night. So this beer is Kiwi Lilt XL. For those of you who haven't lived in England, there might be a few of you out there, Lilt was a really delicious soft drink. Wow. Lilt was a really nice fizzy drink that you could get from the 1970s right through until this year when Coca-Cola discontinued it. As I say, some of you may remember drinking Lilt in the ad campaigns. They were always set in Jamaica. You had the Lilt man that drove around in his milk truck handing out Lilt. And it was a tropical grapefruit and pineapple flavour soft drink, which it's understandable why they decided to name this beer after it, because it's pretty tropical. You've probably heard of Mount. They're in Mount Maunganui, and it all began in 1996 when Glenn started making some beers and home brewing, and the classic story, and it grew and grew to be quite a big operation. And if you haven't had a Mount beer recently in the past few years, perhaps you might think of Mount as being a little bit staid or traditional or old-fashioned, because they've been around for nearly 30 years. But I can tell you right now that is definitely not the case. And if you're drinking this, you definitely will know that it's not the case. So Mount these days is run by Briar and her partner Niall. So Briar was, I think, 6 weeks old when the brewery first started. So it's a really lovely story that you actually don't see that often in modern craft beer. Of course, it's the whole history of some of the oldest breweries in the world that they've just been handed down from generation to generation. So really lovely that Brian has now taken the reins with Niall, and they've really modernised things, and they're doing a really, really cool range of interesting stuff. So Pavel is their head brewer at the moment, super enthusiastic Polish guy, and he's really interested in collaborations and doing interesting beer styles. So obviously we get on really well because that's also what I'm into. I'm mainly into drinking delicious stuff, but also, big fan of collaborations. So this collaboration came around with Bristol's Wiper and True when a former brewer at Mount moved to England and started brewing at Wiper and True and set up this collaboration. The name Wiper and True is a bit of an odd one, but it's pretty straightforward when you know where it comes from. It was co-founded by a guy called Michael Wiper and Al True. So weird name, but named after a couple of blokes. So they kicked off things about 10 years ago. I feel like so many breweries started around 2012. In England you had Siren and a whole generation of brewers, and here in New Zealand, sort of 10, 11 years ago, that was when Deep Creek and Garage Project and a whole bunch of people, I feel like in the last year or so, have had their 10-year birthday. So that was a really sort of an explosive time for craft beer kicking off. So Wiper and True started off as a contract brewer, and after a couple of years they took over their own space, and when you're next in Bristol, you should go and visit their tap room. So the guys started off making cider. There's quite a lot of cider apples around that area, and they got into brewing, and then the story is all the time really, that they got a reputation for doing delicious IPAs, but also interesting milk stouts, more recently kettle sours. At the moment, Wiper and True are really getting a reputation for their alcohol-free beers. They're winning all kinds of awards for their de-alcoholized, I think that's a word, beers. So yeah, really kind of cutting edge and doing interesting stuff. So yeah, I really love collaborations, and yeah, always have done really. I've worked on a lot of collaborations with Small Gods, the beers that I do. I've organised a lot, so you might have tried some of the Trans-Tasman collaborations last year, where I match made a dozen New Zealand brewers and a dozen Australian brewers. I think maybe one of the first collaborations I might have set up was with Giappo, the ice cream maker, an Outlier Cartel, the sadly hibernating brilliant brewery. They made a kiwi fruit sorbet beer together. So yeah, this beer is a bit of a celebration of delicious New Zealand hops. There's a lot of Nelson Sauvin in there, which gives real nice, like white grape sort of flavors. That's behind the name really, Nelson Sauvin, like Sauvignon Blanc. And there's also real nice pineapple notes, and just tropical notes in there, and that real kind of like overripe pineapple sort of flavor that's really, really delicious. So that comes from the Nectaron in there. And I talk about this sometimes, but New Zealand hops are really, really fantastic, and they're really in demand everywhere else in the world. We're so lucky to live here in New Zealand, where we have access to all these great beers that are made with these really, truly unique hops. So really cool artwork. That's actually Pavel on the can, in a rain shower, obviously being an English collaboration. And just to actually, it's a little bit dark here at Beerjet Towers at the moment, but you'll be able to look at the beer in your own glass. It's pretty thick. It's pretty hazy. It's this is what I'd call a true New England IPA. We don't have too many hazy beers in the Beerjet Beer of the Week subscription box, just because there's so many, to be honest, and I want to keep it interesting and the varieties wide, so that you get to discover styles that you maybe haven't had before or don't get to drink often. So for a hazy pale ale or a hazy IPA to get into our mix, it's got to be bloody good, basically. And this one absolutely is. There's yeah, I personally feel like there's almost like two almost distinct styles of hazy IPA. Some that are nice, and that's kind of the first wave of hazy IPAs that got brewed in New Zealand. And I feel like maybe lots of people were making these beers that had never actually tried them, because hardly anyone was making them a few years ago. It's pretty recently that I remember going on a trip to back to England and stopping in New York on the way. And I got to try some of these New England IPAs by breweries like Grimm and Other Half. And then back in England when I was drinking stuff from Werder and Deya, and Cloudwater from Manchester. And it's a different kind of beer style, really, as you'll be experiencing as you drink this. There's just so much body, so much softness, perceived sweetness, and that's just down to the wheat and the oats that give this beer a really soft, full body, and the hop varieties that are used in there as well. So it's beers like this often it's pretty much almost all dry hopping, which means you get all the aroma, all the flavour, but none of the bitterness. There's the subtle bitterness in this beer, which is why they became so popular. Of course, bitterness is a bit of an acquired taste if you're just getting into drinking craft beer. then it's probably not very nice to have a super roasty beer or a super resinous bitter beer. But a beer like this is going to just win everybody over, basically. And when you get a beer that's well made, that's hazy, it's got the body to support all the lovely fresh characteristics, all of the aroma. Yeah, you're getting like mango flavors in here. And there are some hazy IPAs that include milk sugar or actually have sweeteners added to them. It's not the case here. So that became a bit of a thing with like oat cream IPAs and lactose IPAs, which can be tasty, and it's a way to really elevate that sort of sweetness side. I think so many of us have sweet tooths. But yeah, really big congratulations to the guys at Wiper and True and at Mount for pulling together a seriously great New England IPA. I'm not just waffling on there. I really can't overstate how world class this is for its style. So I hope you guys are enjoying it. What else do we have that's going on? It's winter. It's getting pretty cold. If you haven't checked out the BOTW website recently, we gave it a bit of an overhaul recently, so it's pretty streamlined and slick. We're still working on it. They're still working on our different compositions and things, but we've got the winter drop that just came out a week or so ago. So that's a really brilliant selection that me and Joe have pulled together of 12 great seasonal beers that you're probably not going to find anywhere else. So you can find that online. I think it's only $79. So you should probably order it. They're all packed in our big chiller there, ready to ship. And we also got a batch of Schneiderweisse. So we've got a mixed case online at the moment of Schneiderweisse wheat beers. I think there's maybe only about 5 boxes left because they've gone really quickly. So that's got their new Festweisse for 2023. Just events in us and just a really amazing selection of pretty incredible wheat beers, which is another style that I love that you don't see a lot of in New Zealand. I'm hoping more people will get into drinking wheat beers because I want to drink more and I want more brewers to make them. But obviously brewers only make stuff that people buy because they are businesses and need to make money. Anyway, that is enough from me. I hope you enjoy this beer as much as I do. Great work to Pavel, Brian, the whole brew team, and keep up the good stuff. See you next time. Cheers.